We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Paragon Competitive League EU number 4. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. And thank you for supporting us on this long journey that we have been on for quite some time. For those clever people out there, you've noticed that Nate and I have switched sides. But we just like keeping you guys on your toes is what we're here for. Game number 1 was Havoc pretty much just being the better team. I think that's a straight. Do you feel that's the most straightforward way we can possibly put it?
Yeah. They were very clinical in the execution of everything, pretty much rotations, team fights, just everything. So, yeah.
So,
what to say on that, really?
Would you say was it a specific thing? For me, it doesn't feel like it was just one issue that was lacking on the side of Team BM. It definitely felt like they were just getting out-rotated. And to be honest, the lane configuration coming out from Havoc was very unexpected. I believe they more than likely weren't expecting a aggressive carry lane in the off lane against a Howitzer. Now, Howitzer isn't Howitzer's not the worst hero to have in that situation. He has the knock-up mine, which can provide him defensive means against rotates and ganks and harassment. He obviously has a little bit of long-range harass and long-range ability to secure CS with R2000 rocket. Mana-intensive that it may be, it still is a tool that he can use to harass, secure rotation, gank, so on and so forth. So not necessarily the worst hero to have in that situation. I think it just came down to not expecting that and not knowing how to play against it. I felt like specifically that offensive carry lane that Never was having to deal with.
Yeah, I think what it is as well is Twin Blast is one of the ADCs that's earliest to come online.
Yep,
So once they got that small advantage, he really just snowballed it. We saw, I think it was 19 to 13 on the carries the first time we checked, and the next time it was checked, it was just, it was all out of proportion, something like 39 to 20 something. I was like, right, this game's done. But they really, Havoc did well at edging out that early game advantage, and then just carried on pushing it, and just never let Team BM get back into the match, unfortunately. So, yeah, and just everything. Yeah, I was pleasantly, surprised about how that the draft that I thought that Team BM had really got the better draft, and just completely blew me out of the water. And said, see what you know.
Another interesting point that I want to bring up before we get into the draft here for game number 2 is anytime you see a Countess, you think pick off potential, burst damage assassin, and the way that they played her, the way that they utilized her, wasn't necessarily in that role. It's not like she was getting to the backline and killing Sparrow. It was generally Kwang, Gadget, and Bellica were the Holy Trinity going to the backline and securing the kills on Sparrow. Instead, they were playing to the strengths of Countess's wave clear and putting her in the role of just pushing a lane constantly. Obviously, there's maybe opportunities will open up for her to get the combo Shadow Slip, Feast, and secure a kill, but more so, they were playing around her strength as a lane pusher than they were as a burst assassin. And I think that's very, very interesting that teams are starting to play around not just the very one specific strength of a hero, but again, are becoming much more adaptable in their strategies, how they lane, and overall how they play the game. Let's get into the draft here, Nate, for game number 2. See if if I feel like Havoc, they're feeling comfortable right now as far as, what they can possibly draft. I think it's Team BM that feels a little bit more pressure going into this draft. They had a decent front line. But maybe that Sparrow carry was a little bit greedy in that situation. Maybe they needed to pick up something like a Murdoch or a Grimex, but at the same time, those two carries really aren't that favored currently in the current meta.
No, this is a little bit telling when we haven't got that Revenant to change it up a little bit. So obviously in the next event he'll be shaking stuff up. So, but for now it's just those same 5 technically, Yin as well. Probably I'd like to see Yin maybe put out there and see what she can do. I really like her as my 2 favorite ADCs are probably Twin Blast and the Yin. Yeah, she's so, like, just the amount of times I've been trying to run around catching her and she's jumping through fog walls, she's dropping down the ult, and I just give up and go. I just base after that. I'm just like, I ain't got time for this.
So TBM, they're going to ban out the Twin Blast. It was a phenomenal performance of Malix on that Twin Blast. I'm not going to want to have to deal with that. So I'd imagine with a Twin Blast ban, that Yin is definitely very much so a high probability here, especially with her ability to sort out her Gale being such a strong tool at dealing with any projectile specifically any of the carries, able to 1v1 carries in a situation. I feel like Yen specifically in a 1v1 situation, carry versus carry, is just so strongly favored due to that Gale, as long as you're playing around it, as well as the fact that her DPS potential is, I think maybe other than Sparrow, one of the highest in the game, in the late game situation.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, she's really up there. Like I say, against every other ADC that is a ranged ADC, when she drops the Gale down, basically you can't damage her, she can damage you. It doesn't take a mastermind to work out what's going to happen at that point. So,
and you can't really run away from her either. Either the slow coming out from the Gale, of course, whiplashing over. See the draft moving pretty quick here, as we also saw the Bellica ban out from Havoc, so they don't want to get the Bellica in the hands of Team BM this time around. They're going to have their hands on the Kwong. Never, I'm assuming, is going to be picking up the Howitzer. And there's the Yen, sort of as expected here. But the first two picks from Havoc, or I'm sorry, the first pick from Havoc was that Decker, who, if Decker's not banned, she's going to get first picked. Then Grux and Yen. So already this draft coming out from Havoc, extraordinarily strong. These are the most highly favored heroes in the meta right now. One of the most highest favored, if not the most highly favored, with the Grux and the Decker.
Yeah, I'm surprised they actually banned out the Bellica because she was, so not crucial, but she made it even from a support role. She was really, not key to them winning, but she made the plays basically. So I'm surprised to see them ban her out, after using them, but I suppose they just don't want them. They give them the ability to have a Bellicon support on the other side, so I can understand that.
Sparrow being picked up by Team BM once again, so they are going to have to really protect her this time. They are going to get the Countess in their hands in this game, not letting it go over to Havoc. So last time they had the Greystone. As far as offlaners goes, I mean, Greystone's on the table, so we might just see a complete role reversal here. Of the Kwong Countess being on Team BM instead of Havoc here. These drafts looking a little bit familiar just on the other side of the field there. So Team Havoc rounding it out. Looks like they need to pick themselves up a mid laner as well as an off laner. They're pretty much, as far as mid lane goes, pretty straightforward. I'd imagine it's going to be Gadget. But off laners, I think, is one of the roles that has one of the most diverse hero pools in the game that's still viable. But I'm still expecting a Greystone.
Yeah, I mean that off lane can be played. I think that's probably the most hero open pool of players you can play in the off lane, because you can play the casters, you can play the fighters, and the only thing you really can't go in there is the supports really. So I mean, the ADC can really, we've seen it with like the Grim off lane as well. So even a Twin Blast off lane, it's that off lane role just really gives the freedom to the offline players, allow them to play really what they want apart from probably support. So let's see what we get.
Feng Mao coming out here for Havoc, a hero that we've really only seen very specific people play. We see him every now and then, but still just an overall very strong hero. He's got great mobility with Reaping Dash, his ability to get burst damage down, and also his ability just to completely mitigate damage with his conversion shield on that right mouse button. So just he has he's got the package you want when it comes to offlaners: mobility, survivability, and kill potential, and that's Feng Mao. As well as he's not the most snowbally hero in the game, but if you get ahead on him, you definitely can just pretty much go into a carry's face and kill them outright. Just making sure you're smart with your hamstring and using it at the most ideal time.
Yeah, I always feel like Feng Mao is so underpicked. I mean, because the heroes that tend to play in that position are more flashy, or tend to be just, so if you pick a Greystone, it's just Greystone things. He's going to push down your players,
right.
etc. They get the Countess is just going to blow someone up in 3 clicks. I feel Feng Mao, but it just, when you see a Feng Mao played well, I mean, we've seen players like the Ram Riddles or
Certified comes to mind.
Certified, all those sort of offlane players that are known. We just know that you see some really wonderful things come up with them. So I'm always happy to see it being picked.
Just overall very well-rounded hero. I think with the meta being much more favored and put the off-lane role being much more of a lane pusher, Feng Mao has decent wave clear, but he is overshadowed by people like Countess and Greystone when it comes to wave clear. Yeah. That's more than likely why we haven't seen him picked up. But it's still his wave clear is still decent enough, and I think we do see Thundercleaver picked up on him fairly consistently the few times we have seen him. So he can still fill that role. Maybe not quite as strong, but again, his strengths come from his mobility and his ability to. He has a little bit more kill potential, reliable kill potential. Countess not necessarily as reliable because her ultimate is she's much more fragile in a sense without the defensive capabilities. Narbash picked up here for the support coming out from Team BM. So Sparrow has the Narbash once again, those thunks and the Crash Bang Boom providing her, and of course the speed boost in the Song My People, healing her up and topping her off. So Team BM, I feel like they just need to secure their early game. They can't let themselves get run over by Havoc. I think the biggest thing they can do to transition themselves decently into a later game is just protect their tier 1 towers and rotate a little bit more fluidly across the map. Because again, you take a look at Havoc and their pushy potential quite high. Their early game potential with the Grux and the Gadget, very, very high. Decker come level 5, as well as the Tesla Dome. It's a big mid-game push coming out from Havoc. To the other side of the field, Sparrow, Countess pretty much are late-game dominators, but you have to get there first.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the draft as a whole, I think like last game I really gave it to Team BM, but I think this game, I think Team Havoc have it because, I mean, there's nothing. The thing now is, I know he's not everyone's favorite, but I think they just have such a solid lineup right there. I just think, and Psycho Pumpkins, he just went really under the radar. We didn't really see him make the, massive plays, but then I checked his kill and like he was 6-0-0. I was like, did I miss? It's something we usually see with players like Arsenic, where for Team Oxygen NA, where he's just going about business, and you look over and he got 7 kills, and you're like, when did that? I can remember mentioning it, but I just didn't see it. And I think Gadget is just one of those heroes that's just a little bit unassuming. I mean, not really flashy or anything like that, and just picks up kills, and you
Very much so.
underestimate your own peril, basically. So.
Yeah, she's never really been a flashy hero. Her kit, when you think of flashy mid laners, you think of Bellica hitting big seismic assaults. You think of Gideon, which we don't see very often. He is much more situational. But the few times we have seen him, Gideon, I think, is a little bit more flashy. Probably the flashiest mid hero in the game currently, other than Iggy and Scorch. Other than Iggy.
Rest in peace, Scorch.
But yeah, we don't see Gideon a lot just because crowd control is so prevalent in the support pool right now that we have seen Gideon maybe once or twice in the past month or two, just because it was a punishment of where a team didn't have much crowd control, as well as the other aforementioned mid laners weren't available to them. But yeah, she's just it's well-rounded, consistent. And same can be said about Feng Miao. So it's just a very well-rounded draft, can do a lot of things really, really well. And I think with the way we saw Team Havoc play in the previous game, that really sort of was their play style. They were, it's not like they were pushing, they were feigning aggression under their tier 2 tower 15 minutes in the game, but they weren't committing to hard pushes. They were getting a kill every now and then, but they weren't winning team fights. It's just they were playing very well-rounded and adapting to the situation, playing a little bit more reactive sort of style, and I think this draft is going to suit them, and if they come into this game like they did in game number 1, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a very one-sided match again, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think from what I saw as them having the better draft last game, and they still managed to sort of dominate the game, I think they've got an even better draft this time, and I don't want to count my chickens, but I think this could be a very rough game for Team BM.
So, guys, again, we're about to get into this match here as we get it all set up. I'm sure you guys can hear the noises in the background as we load in. And don't forget, head over to Match Arena, support these teams as best that you can with that coupon code PCLEU for the amount of support that this community gives to not only our event through the Match Arena and through viewership and other means, but just the generosity of this community as a whole, whether it's YouTube content, whether it is creative content, whether it is Twitch streamers, the contributions that people give in any way imaginable, whether it's monetary, whether it's moral support, whether it's just being there and being an active member of the community, is so disproportionate to the actual size of the community. Obviously, disproportionate has negative connotations associated with it, but what I mean by that is just the size, the amount of support that people give here is so much bigger than one would imagine, given the early stages that we have of this game in development, and it's such a beautiful thing to be a part of. And thank you guys for continuing to just be magnificent people. Nate, you're pretty good too, though. You're pretty good too, though, man.
Brought a tear to my eye, that entire speech, mate. I enjoyed it.
So
no, we have got a really good community here, so it's it's always good when they rally around, and we with the subscriptions we're getting and the followers we're getting, it's showing, and at least Epic they're starting to appreciate us.
That rule set and the teased quote exhibition end quote, they teased that out on that day as well. So obviously us at the PCL and all the other tournament organizers are very anxiously awaiting more details about that, but we'll have to just wait for the future here. Nate, let's get into this game. Shall we?
Yeah, I'm at 5.
All right, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do this, my man. Game number 2, BM on the ropes. I'm really gonna have to pull it together here. We're gonna see what they're able to do. Introduce these teams one more time. It's gonna be Fubi on Sparrow, Never on Howitzer, Secret on Countess, Fusions on Kwong, and Semi on Narbash.
Yeah, and for Havoc, we're gonna have Maya on the Grux, Atravan on the Decker, Malix on the Yin, Psycho Pumpkins back on the Gadget, and Vigin on the Feng Mao.
So last game, the laning was a little bit unorthodox to say the least here, Nate. I'm looking at the current situation. Yin has decent harassment, but obviously she's only a ranged carry until every 8 out of 2 seconds once she hits level 8. Until then, she doesn't have as frequent uptime on her increased range on her whip here, but they're getting aggressive, catching out Fubi, and off to a not a very good start already, but more so, I think it's just Havoc are able to find Team BM with their pants down, get a kill on a Sparrow, and it looks like they are going to be running this aggressive carry dual lane for the second game in a row.
Yeah, I think they think they've got the measure of this team, and they're just going in hard, and they're just thinking, well, we had a fairly straightforward first game. We're going to put pressure on. They had the Howitz last game, but they've got the duo lane this time, so they're going to put pressure on them, test them this match, and already first blood to Malix and Atravan over there, so looking favorable for them already.
Mid lane is a little bit more what we're used to here. It's going to be Howitzer versus Gadget, a matchup that we see quite frequently here. Harassment potential is pretty much equal on both sides. Gadget has a little bit more reliable with Sticky Bomb, having a little bit easier to land, but still, until those guys really hit level 5+, I don't imagine much kill potential in a solo situation here without rotations. And this is just so much aggression coming out here. Even before it was a 2v1, now it's a 2v2. But you wouldn't even, Havoc doesn't even feel like that's the situation. And I feel like they definitely do in this matchup here. I think they have a significant advantage right here with just, again, Sparrow not having anywhere near as strong of an early game presence as that of a Yin. Even though Yin is only level 1 and doesn't have as much uptime on her abilities, she still is able to just go in there when it is online and harass down this Sparrow continuously.
Sorry, I've actually just noticed something. The Kwang hasn't gone into the jungle. The counter has.
You're right.
You actually have a Countess jungle.
We do have a Countess jungle, and it's it looks like an off-lane build with a potion and a healer token. But that's something I don't think we've seen ever. Maybe 1 or 2 times before. So talk about this, Nate.
It's a little out the box. I mean, it can be done. The thing is, once she hits that level 5, the gank potential that she has, because she can just run into lane. If there is CC in that lane, it can be really good. If there isn't CC in that lane, because she hasn't got any CC, it can make those ganks really impotent, essentially. But we've got the Narbash, so he's got the CC. We've got the Howitzer, got a CC. We've got a Kwang, got some CC. So, we might be able to see some decent picks coming off on this Countess in the jungle.
Oh, I actually see Howitzer get taken out right there in the mid lane. Missed that. Meyer was had the red buff. I'd imagine it was just a smash a grab into a pretty straightforward kill there. So again, Team Havoc putting themselves in a great position in the first couple minutes of the game. So here in the safe lane, they're under the rim of the tier 1 tower, continue to harass. Yin very, very low. If a piercing arrow lands, that could be the kill. It is going to land, but just barely not enough damage. Yin is going to be able to get away by the skin of her teeth. So we're seeing signs of life coming out here from Team BM. I mean, they just lost their howitzer, but at least their carry lane is going a little bit better than it is in game number 1. And I think just it's going to come down to not allowing Yin to continue to harass. But at the same time, I don't know if some carry players are not used to this sort of pressure, and if they're able to keep up their CS while at the same time dealing with the 2v2 situation and always having these skirmishes, that's where these two carries are going to be able to separate themselves. Who can maintain CS while at the same time having that dance between the two duo lanes?
I mean, it's back here. If you've played enough Legacy, you're probably used to that pressure.
Right, yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
You know, it's going to tell the newer players from the older players.
Stasis Bomb not going to land right there. Yen, again, getting very aggressive, but if you don't have the follow-up CC, isn't going to land, and you go in a little bit haphazardly, already down to half HP. So even though Sparrow gave up that first blood just to being caught out in the first seconds of the game, since then they've stabilized. They didn't get a kill, but at least forced the Yin to back. And now the tables have turned. They're the one pushing down the tower, Siege minion wailing down. And Yin having to play very, very passive until her health gets a little bit more online. Rotating from the mid lane is Psycho Pumpkin. And the Sticky Bomb isn't going to be enough damage. It is. That one last auto attack from Yin is what got her low enough for the Sticky Bomb to get the kills. So they didn't even have a ward right there. Anytime you're pushing a tower like that, if you don't have a ward, you're going to get rotated on just like that, especially at this level. So pretty much a straightforward rotation from Psycho Pumpkin and punishing them. And again, Sparrow gets taken out.
I think, I mean, the problem with that all came about because we got the Countess in the jungle. She still sat doing camp. She didn't come out to contest the buff. The Gadget went, got the buff. The Howitzer thought, right, she's just dropping down to get the buff. She'll be back out to lane. Psycho Pumpkins didn't go back to lane, went straight over to the left lane. Probably didn't get a call that the Gadget was rotating and was able to, you know, take that kill very clinically and just, you know, straight kill the Sparrow. And this is something, if the jungler is not going to go in those buffs, the mid laner has to follow the enemy mid laner in, because that will keep happening.
So the story of this duo lane is just a constant power struggle back and forth. Countess Secret coming in. Not level 5, so she doesn't have the ultimate, but she still has the Shadow Slip. Going to go in, and it looks like just some miscommunication over here on the side of Team BM. Countess went in. I mean, if there was maybe a follow-up thunk after the Shadow Slip, kill potential onto that Decker very, very high, especially with Sparrow poking her down with that bow and arrow. Not the case, and I think what otherwise could have been a pretty straightforward kill onto the Decker is going to fall through the hands of Team BM. Countess is going to rotate back. Again, it's that jungle Countess here, guys. Something we don't see very often, and very important for her to hit level 5. Not going to be the case. That kill might have been able to do it. Continued aggression, as Narbash is going to have to get himself out of a very awkward situation. And this safe lane for Team BM is constantly under struggle. And I want to see how the CS is doing here, Nate. How are the numbers looking?
So Fubi is on about 25 and Malik's on 27, so probably around average. It's 110 to 128, so not a great deal in it. But this Countess might be struggling in jungle. Late game, obviously, she's just going to be wiping camps off the map with one click. But early game, she can quite struggle. And with the build he's taken, he hasn't really got the sustain. He's got the healer token, but hasn't got like a Cypher or anything. He's actually bought 3 Shaman's Drink, so he's wanting to blast down these camps and regen his mana. He's only level 4, so it's probably better to take the mana pots. I can't remember what the math says. I don't know if it's level. It's around.
I think it's level 7. Yeah, level 7 or level 8 is when it becomes more effective than a normal standard healing.
So taking them early is a bit weird. We'll see Sparrow.
Oh man, Sparrow's head smash and grab, as well as the stasis bomb. Ruby gets taken out, and Yin is just starting to Malix again. He's put on a great performance on Twin Blast and is doing the same situation here for Yin. Countess is just sort of roaming around her jungle, farming idly, and I think just through pure happenstance is going to get away from an invasion into their jungle. But the green buff is going to be taken here by Meyer on the Crux. Over on the other side of the field, Kwong and Feng Mao have been duking out, but Psycho Pump is going to be here. Speed Gates is going to drop for a little bit of a speed boost. He's going to be able to get himself out. The Tesla Dome is not going to get that snare that he needs. So he was able to get away. There wasn't a speed dome, as well as the Reaping Dash from Feng Mao was a little bit late. But on the other side of the field, Malix is in the jungle pretty much by himself, and he's going to get taken out. So they finally get a kill onto a high priority target, they being Team BM. Countess, level 5, smashes that feast button and picks up the kill. So they might have the momentum, but anytime you're carrying in the jungle by yourself and you don't have good vision, any decent team worth of salt's going to be able to punish you like that. So I think just simply an overextension and a disrespect coming out there from Alex.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Once the counters comes online, she's going to be, but it was just waiting for that level 5. See Maya just pick up an easy kill in the jungle there. He's got the black buff.
Yeah.
He's got the ult as well. Just absolutely mouths the Narbash.
Meyer transitioning from the strong side over to the weak side jungle. Has found a Countess. No Shadow Slip, as the ability to go back to it is not going to land. The stasis bomb, unfortunately, not going to register. That would have been the death of him. Does Meyer no smash and grab for another 3 seconds. And does not have enough mana to charge forward and smash and grab. Rotation coming out from Kwong, maybe to try to get something going, but they have to be very careful here because the Countess is very, very low, but does have enough mana underneath the tier 1 tower. They swing onto Kwong. The 4-man invasion here, the 5-man invasion is there, just pinchering them right here. Countess gets taken out too because they thought they were going to be okay. They weren't expecting all 5 team members of Team Havoc here to rotate, but they get caught again. A little bit lack of situational awareness. They pick up 2 kills. They pick up the off-lane tower. I think the only silver lining to this story here for Team BM is that Sparrow has been given some space that she has not had since the start of this game and has been free farming for about the past 2 minutes. But still, map control starting to go over to Havoc here, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, he has been getting the free farm, but, you know, Malik's up to 3 kills now and an assist, so it's not all going their way. I think that the problem there was the Kwang went to the tier 1 tower instead of the tier 2 tower, and that's always dangerous because as soon as those minions come wandering in, you just know you're going to get dived upon as soon as that happens. And look how quickly they've absolutely destroyed those raptors.
That's the power of Grux.
That was like 6-7 seconds and gone.
A continuing economical advantage. Game number 2 here for the orange team. Team Havoc. Let's take a look at the numbers. And it's going to be over here on Fubi, 13 card points to Malik's 17. So a 4-point card lead. Definitely not as devastating as it was at this stage in game number 1, but we're only 11 minutes in. We're going to have to see if the momentum continues to go into the favor of Team Havoc as they just have full map control. I do say Team BM is in a little bit of a better situation than they were in game number 1 here, Nate. I think more so due to the fact that the lanes were a little bit more contemporary and they were a little bit more prepared from it, as well as Fubi has had a little bit more space, has still given up 3 kills, but at least has semblance of farm and levels. Narbash is not as is coming in on level 5, which around 10 to 13 minutes is generally when you want to see that. It's generally for a standard, like, I mean, that's considered late, but still, it's not off by normal metrics by any means. Semi looks like he's trying to find himself a Kwang kill, but is not going to be able to. He landed a Thunk, and the follow-up isn't there. But now Meyer's just trying to find a Countess here. He's by himself, so he has to be careful. Countess does have a mana pool large enough to get off a Shadow Slip, and Yin is just going to casually 1v1 Sparrow, as we would expect that to happen. And got to be careful about that. Fubi's got to be more careful and have a little more situation awareness. Again, just take a look at the vision on the map. If you're pushing yourself that far forward, you don't have wards, you got to just be very, very cognizant of the location of your opponent. If you don't, you're just going to get taken out. Mid lane, same situation. Countess, no Shadow Slip. Thunk is there to provide a little bit of peel, but one more auto attack from Gadget should be enough. But nope, Yin's going to rotate over, and it's going to whip it right into Countess's face. And that is 2 kills going over to Malik's very, very quickly.
Yeah, and the thing is, while Crux has been a nuisance in the jungle, and so has the Gadget. They're pulling him into the jungle. The support's having to come over and just help the counters, which is just leaving Malik to 1v1 the Sparrow. And Sparrow is already not the best 1v1 in that situation anyway, especially when your opponent has, you know, 4, 5, 6 XP on you as well. You know, that really compounds the problem. So I think we need the Narbash to really sit on the hip of this Sparrow throughout this game, just to make sure she doesn't get picked any more times, because she's already on 4 deaths right now.
Yin just punishes Sparrow so hard, and in 1v1 sense Yin punishes her, but just throughout the entire spectrum of the game, Yin is just such a strong hero at dealing with Sparrow. I mean, if you just, in a late game situation, let's say 60 card point, everyone's 60 card points, any Yin is just going to reserve that Gale. The moment she hears the inner fire coming out from the Sparrow, is just going to be able to completely, maybe not negate it, obviously, due to the fact that Gale is somewhat small of an area, and team fights happen in vast spaces, but you're still going to be able to negate it specifically, notify your team the Gale is up, and if you're able to play around that Gale, just completely negate the strength of that hero. even in the late game, even when she is at her biggest power spike that she has. So the tools provided from this Yin proving to allowing Havoc to put themselves ahead. Very similar situation, and sort of as we expected with a dominating performance in game number 1.
Yeah, the thing that, again, I've been impressed about this game from Team Havoc is their coordination of, like, when they're diving towers, who's going to take the aggro and trying to share the aggro as best they can. And, you know, I'm going to appeal for you right now. I mean, I can only imagine what's being said in the comms, but that's what it feels like. They're very coordinated. And when these tower dives are coming and just allowed them the access into the enemy back line and just picking off, you know, heroes for fun right now.
The game plan, mid-game plan here from Havoc looks to be diverging from what we saw previously. Instead of going with that 1-3-1, applying pressure, feigning pressure, and punishing positional mistakes coming out from Team BM, they are grouping up as a little bit more here, specifically S4. They're going to catch out Countess. The Tesla Dome is there. Shadow Slip is just delaying the inevitable at this point in time. And the map control has been thoroughly taken here by Team Havoc, and that's all she's going to be right here for the Countess. Other side of the field, Kwang and Fei Miao are starting to duke it out. This matchup is a pretty even matchup here. All depends on if Kwang's able to land the tether and avoid melee while also pretty much, in sort of a sense, kiting the Feng Miao with the tether and using his right mouse button to get damage down, and at the according time, making sure you're able to mitigate the ultimate, and there is the ultimate. It actually misses. So Kwang, if he has something up, might be able to get this kill. All the meanwhile, though, we see that, I mean, it's prime time again. Kwang does get the kill on the Feng Miao, so he's not going to get the Orb Prime, but I don't even think, does Team BM know about this? They do now. Hauser can come in here, make it rain, looking for a potential steal, gets a kill on the Meyer! Beautifully done thus far, so they were able to get 2 kills right here. There's the knock-up on the Mallets, putting in a very, very bad situation, and there's the feast coming out from Countess, so finally Team BM get themselves in a situation. They pretty much punished Havoc for going for a very greedy Orb Prime right there, as well as Kwang being able to pull out the 1v1 on the heels of a misplay from the Feng Miao, missing the spike. And now they, for the first time in this series, have some momentum here, Nate.
Yeah, it looks like they're in the center set. Very good. I mean, I thought they were actually going to steal the Orb Prime there, but they didn't. Managed to pick up the kill, got the 3 kills fairly cleanly. I'm wondering why they're not actually going onto the Raptors. I mean, Team Havoc are coming straight out of base. They know where they're going.
Yep.
It might have been the best call. I mean, they've only got the Prime, I believe, on the
3.
deck and the Gadget.
The Gadget, the Decker, and the... Does Yin have it? No, Yin got killed. You're right. They got 3 kills, so it's only the Gadget. So the Stiggy Bombs are going to be hitting hard, but I agree. I think maybe the play was, guys, let's try to get some semblance of map control back, something they haven't had at all in these past 2 games. Maybe they're looking to push these waves out and then regroup across the Raptors. But, I mean, the Dusk team, Havoc is Dusk, so they have that geographical inherent advantage of the Raptors. And I feel like maybe the Raptors were a little bit of a smarter call here, because those are that objective is much more easier to contend at the right time, versus map control is something you are in a constant battle for. So they had an advantage, they had a opening, and I feel like that opening has come and gone, and I feel like they needed to get more done with that, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, the death timers aren't quite, you know, as punishing just yet, so they didn't have as much time as they may have liked. But if anything, it took a little wind out of the sails of Team Havoc, which was nice, and the Team BM maybe have their tails up now, like, we can win these team fights, and we can. That's like the 1v1 in the off lane, you know, the Kwang won it, so he's like, right, I've maybe got the measure of this Feng Mao now, so I can win this lane, so maybe I don't need to get players to rotate over to me, because I'm not struggling with this, and they can, you know, keep on that mid lane where they wanted to apply that pressure on this. I think Maya has actually spent more time in the enemy safe jungle than his own. Right now he's always on the enemy green, and so but they're just looking for that invade all the time. But he's got to be careful, because if he's pushing on his own, he's going to eventually run into a counters with an ult up and just get absolutely burst down. So
a very common theme we see is actually not the jungler picking up the quenching scales. It's just such a strong. I would say it's one of these. I think it's the strongest card in the game right now, to be honest. Narbash is going to get caught out. He's going to get taken. Trying to do what he can. Fubi just completely booking it. Like, just Narbash taking one for the team at this point in time.
I don't want none of that.
Yeah, he's getting the hell out of there. And Again, it's just one pick off here, one pick off there. The only really big team fight that has gone down thus far did go over to Team BM, but that was more so enabled by the fact that the very greedy or prime play was punished. But that's what Havoc has been doing. They're picking their opponent apart one by one, whether it's just casually getting a pick here, being able to be a little bit more efficient on the map with the map control that they've been able to retain from their strategic tier 1 pushes. They don't commit to tier 2 pushes. They just look for picks, and I feel like Team BM is just pretty much providing said picks. They're trying to get something going on the map, but they're not playing as much of a unit as I feel like they need to. They're not protecting themselves as much as they need to, and the game plan for Havoc is pretty much just falling into their lap.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you've got a Sparrow, you have to protect that Sparrow until she gets up to maybe even 48 sort of CXP, when she can really hold her own and, you know, take those 1v1s because she's got the damage available. They're not doing that right now. I mean, they're just letting her sort of farm this lane right now because it's pushed that far back in, but the rest of the team it's not panicky, but it seems that way. But when you see how coordinated Team Havoc are, it feels like Team BM are a little bit panicky at times.
Meyer's looking for a rotation over here to Kwong, but he doesn't know that he's sitting on top of a ward from Team BM. So Fusion's is very well aware of this gank, and he's been playing accordingly thus far. In the mid lane, again, just feigning a little pressure. Yin just recently back to spend. Well, we have a moment potentially here. Actually, hold that thought, because we're going to see an engagement. Countess rotating over. There's the Shadow Slip point. She's skilled to try to keep herself alive. Actually interrupted the feast with the challenge of the Warlord, intentional or not. And that is a fortuitous moment that more than likely would have been the death of the Grux. But he plays the song of, or rather claps to the song of his people. Wrong hero. Claps to the song of his hero.
Songs of the people, as BM Semi is actually disconnected right now.
Oh, jeez.
That is...
Oh, rip Narbash. Well, hopefully he'll be back here in a moment, guys. But as they say in Happy Gilmore, you got to play it as it stands. So they're going to continue to push here into the left lane. Malix is... Let's take a... Well, we have a brief moment. Let's take a look at the numbers and talk about these builds, Nate. Specifically, it's pretty much straightforward stuff. The Madstone Gem going into some base low point cards with attack speed, the Whirling Wands, the Madstone Gems. And then after that, you get your lifesteal, you get your crit, which already we got about 20% crit, I'm sorry, 16% crit from that Impact Hammer on Malix, and then another 8% crit. So that lifesteal on the brand of the Iron Eater isn't meant to enable her 1v1 potential. She already has. She can pretty much 1v1 anyone on the side of her opponent right now due to the fact that she's ahead in card experience, but also because Yin just has that inherent advantage. So I like that she's not building as much lifesteal as you normally would see at least at this point in time. It's just as a means to sustain pushes after team fights and after she gets harassed.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously these objectives, the lifesteals are always appreciated. Just, if you can let your ADC tank and leave all your tanks up for defending, like, when the team fight does eventually come.
Countess is not in a good situation here. Giving you Shadow
Countess
Slip.
is dead right now.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it outright, because I don't know, maybe there's going to be like a big misplay or something like that, but she doesn't have a blink. I mean, she's going to use Shadow Slip to the best of her abilities when she's against the corner. And again, Team BM, they've been trying to get wards. They've been trying to get forward wards, which haven't been able to, whether it's because they just simply have not had enough map control to get them into that position, or just, I think Havoc has done a decent job thus far this game of maintaining ward control across the field.
Very well timed blink there from Fubi to get him out of the under the smash and grab from Grux. Literally just catching the tail and just missing the cape of this new skin on the Sparrow. So
looks like Narbash is not quite. Oh, there we go. Narbash not quite here, like we said, guys. Hopefully he'll come back here. But as of right now, these guys are going to have to... we're already in a bad situation, but due to that, they find themselves in a very, very awkward situation here. Nonetheless, Team Havoc have been... like I said, the only real team fight didn't go their way, but they continue to just succeed at their overarching strategy of finding pickoffs shortly after pickoffs, try to find objectives. More so is the Raptors is the main objectives, but I think we're starting to hit that stage where tier 2 tower pushes are going to be a little bit more concerted and definitely are going to be a little bit more threatening here.
I think they definitely, I mean, they've picked up now 3 quenching scales, one on the Feng Mao, one on the Deca, and one on the Grux.
Yep.
So they've got they've got every 20 seconds they can keep popping that off and just getting that arm and that health back, so they can really contest and really put down some sieges as well.
Or Prime, Team BM knows about it. They're trying to zone him out, and they are able to zone him out. Malix gets the last hit onto the Orb Prime, and Grux is going to be leading the charge, looking for something, but Howitzer is going to be able to blink away. Still, even though they don't get any kills, and as well as the containment fence was a swing and a miss, it's still going to be a 4v5 situation, down economically, down on map control, against a Prime card. Is going to be a very, very difficult situation. They do have decent tools at dealing with sieges, though, specifically the Howitzer using Make It Rain, as well as the very, very strong wave clear coming out from Secret 01 on the Countess. It's going to be a conquer and divide coming out here from Havoc, as they're not committing to a 5-man push. We have Grux and Yin over here on the right side of the map, and they're just going to go ahead and kill the Countess outright. The smash and grab, a couple auto attacks from Yin, and now Kwong is going to be isolated here as they wrap around from the mid lane. Are they going to be able to catch him out? Potentially. Fire's tanking the tower. He actually queued up the Judgment of the Heavens, but he got killed, and interrupted that time he could do much of anything, and I think we're starting to see it fall apart at the seams here. Yin goes in there with the Whiplash and secures the kill onto the Howitzer as well. This is going to be at least one inhibitor. Only two, well, really one person defending to this point in time, and that's the Sparrow. And with so much dive, with so much pick potential on the side of Havoc, I'm not sure that Sparrow on her own is going to be able to do much about anything about here, Nate. And this should be game number 2, a clean sweep going over to Havoc right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, they're going to quickly just finish this game.
So, it is unfortunate. Narbash DC'd.
It happens. It happens.
If I'm being completely frank, Havoc was still, prior to that Narbash disconnect, in a very, very dominating position. Obviously, it's hard to say that objectively. Team BM certainly performed way better in game number 2 and game number 1. But Havoc is going to ultimately win that game and move themselves on to day number 2 into the semifinals. Team Havoc, I mean, it's hard to gauge that game specifically since it was so one-sided. It's hard to be like, is Team Havoc that good, or is Team BM maybe just a little bit behind the times? Is Team Havoc
a little from column A, a little from column B in that situation? I think Team Havoc are a good side. They're one of them, not a long-standing established side like your Reborns, your Torontos, your Oxygens.
Right.
Anything like that, but they have been together for quite a while. I mean, you can tell that just from how they play and how well they communicate and what they're trying to do. So we can see it from that. But until they come up against a team like Reborn, Toronto, Oxygen, then we'll get the measure of them, I think.
Well, nonetheless, they're going to move to day number 2, and their strategy was very clear-cut. It was a feign aggression, look for pickoffs, allow the pickoffs to grant them the space to get Raptors, and through those Raptors and the pickoffs, gain an economical advantage, hit a certain point on your carry, push down, either pick up Orb Prime, push down a tier 2 tower. It's a very cut and dry strategy. It's a very straightforward strategy, but they played very, very well, and they stick to the game plan. You didn't see them falling apart. People were always at their respective lanes, pushing lanes, so on and so forth. So, guys, that's going to be it for our first and unfortunately only best of 3 on the primary stream here, as the second best of 3, Suicide Esports did actually forfeit their match. So that is going to be the only best of 3 here on the primary channel. But nonetheless, we do have our second stream, and those games are still going on with Geronimo Jack Geronimo Jack and Gems providing you with the commentary over there. So before we go here, make sure you head over to that Match Arena. Thank you guys so much for your support. You can contribute a free $1 to the prize pool using that coupon code of PCLEU number 4. Thank you guys so much. I'm Shane. Nate, final words before we close it out and send this lovely audience over to our comrades on the other stream.
No, just thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for any new subscribers. I'm not sure if I have a list up right now. MacQuest 7, Another Notch, Aisha Gorath, Sneaky Paragon, and your good self. Did you sub?
I did. I used my Twitch Prime for it.
So thank you guys for all subscribing. That is really appreciated. Don't worry, it doesn't go to line any of our pockets. It all goes towards production value and just helping us, bring a better quality stream for you guys to watch. So thank you for that.
And on that note, guys, thank you so much. We're going to see you tomorrow with the the semifinals and the finals yet to be determined. We're going to send the host over to the second stream Ray Romano, Ray Jack, and Gems. We'll see you guys tomorrow, and we'll have to see who's it going to be. I'm going to be watching Nate, and I hope you guys are too. See you then.